I was raised on refried beans and bedtime stories told between double shifts. My mom, Janine, wasn't the kind of woman people wrote books about. She was too busy living the story. Apron always stained, hands always dry, but her eyes lit up every time she brought home a wrinkled travel magazine from the diner's lost and found bin. "Look," she'd say, pointing at some distant blue coastline. "They say the water's so clear you can see your own feet. One day, that's where your story will begin." We never had much. Our mobile home in Yuma creaked when the wind blew too hard, and the AC worked only if you hit it twice and prayed. But Janine made that house feel like possibility. She taught me how to budget a week's groceries with two $20 bills and a dream. She never lied about how hard life was, but she never let me believe that poverty was a cage. I got accepted into 2 state schools. Janine cried when the envelopes came. I didn't go. Not because I wasn't proud, but because I saw the math. Her knees were starting to give out. The diner's tips were drying up. I told her I'd take a year off. Then I got a job booking tours for retirees going to places she used to point to in those magazines. By the time I turned 25, I was fluent in travel codes and client drama. The agency was tiny, but I was building something quietly. I had a spreadsheet called Proof of Love. Each row was a bill I paid, a gift I sent, a vacation I saved up for. I didn't tell Janine, but I'd started putting away for her future too. That's when I met Emil. I was giving a talk at a regional tourism conference in Flagstaff. He held the door open for me with a quiet smile and asked, "Is this the right ballroom for the dreamers?" We ended up seated at the same table during the networking lunch. Emil, with his calm voice and concierge charm, didn't talk over me like the others did. He asked questions and listened. By the end of the weekend, I knew he wasn't like the men I'd grown used to. He didn't flinch when I told him I skipped college. He said, "Maybe you just took the direct flight." And somehow that's how I boarded the journey I didn't see coming. The first time Emil brought me to Santa Barbara, I thought I was just meeting his relatives. His parents were warm in that practiced coastal California kind of way. Polished, polite, a little distant. Their house smelled like citrus candles and old wealth. Photos lined the hallway, golden-framed snapshots of graduations, ski trips, christenings. I smiled politely, nodding along, until I paused in front of one. The man in the photo had a face I recognized not from memory, but from the battered folder Janine had shown me when I turned 18. It held my adoption papers, a single baby photo, and one candid shot of a man she'd called Bernard. He wanted something different, she'd said quietly, like it still stung. And I wanted you safe. Emil noticed me staring. "Oh, that's Bernard Talbot," he said casually. "Old friend of my dad's. Grew up together. He lives out in Montecito now." The air left my lungs. Talbot. The name on my birth certificate. The name I never asked to reclaim. A week later, I stood on the porch of a home that looked more like a vineyard estate than a house. Bernard opened the door himself. His eyes flicked over me, and then something registered. Eveline, his wife, appeared behind him, dressed like someone used to magazine spreads and catered brunches. "You're her," she whispered, hand to her chest. "You're really her." They invited me in like they'd never missed a birthday, like they hadn't signed away their rights to me before I could speak. Bernard poured tea like it was a ritual. Eveline clasped my hand and said, "We've been waiting for you to come home." I nodded slowly, unsure what kind of home she meant. They asked questions about my childhood, careful ones, as if walking around a landmine. I told them the truth. Janine gave me everything that mattered. They smiled, but it didn't reach their eyes. Eveline mentioned they'd tried to reach out years ago, but the timing wasn't right. Bernard added that Emil's parents had recently reminded them. I wondered if it was guilt or curiosity that brought them to the table. Still, a part of me ached to believe this could be real, like blood had finally recognized me as its own. When Eveline asked if I'd consider staying with them for a while, I said yes before my doubt could catch up. Their house was the kind of place where footsteps disappeared into rugs thick as clouds. I rolled my suitcase across imported stone past tall vases and curated silence and told myself this was temporary. Just a few months. I could work from anywhere, and maybe, just maybe, this would stitch something whole inside me. Eveline welcomed me with a glass of lemon water and a comment about how refreshing it must be to take a break from whatever it is you do. I smiled tightly. Luxury travel planning, I said, setting up my laptop at the end of the long walnut dining table. I run my own platform. She blinked. Oh, like influencer trips. Her voice dipped on the word influencer like it had something sticky on it. Bernard hovered in the background. He offered to help bring in my bags, then disappeared for the rest of the afternoon. I got the sense he preferred newspapers to people. Emil tried. He'd stop by when he could leave me handwritten notes on the fridge. You're amazing. You belong here. But I could feel his tension too, how he shrank a little when his mother made veiled comments about online businesses or kids who think laptop jobs are real work. At night, I worked late while the house went still. The platform was expanding honeymoon packages in Greece, solo retreats in Chile. Clients trusted me. My name meant something in spaces Evelyn had never stepped into. But in that house, I felt like a guest wearing borrowed shoes. One morning, I overheard her on the phone in the kitchen. She's sweet, but a bit unpolished. No formal education. Self-taught. I stood behind the pantry door, stomach clenched. She said it like I was a project she never signed off on. Still, I convinced myself it was progress. At least they were trying. At least they didn't send me away. I started picking up groceries without being asked. Paid the gardener's invoice once when it sat too long on the counter. Quiet things. Easy to ignore. By the time Evelyn invited Emil to plan a family vacation to Italy, I'd almost believed I was part of something permanent. It started with dishes. Not mine, just the ones left after Evelyn's brunches with friends or Bernard's midnight snacks. At first, I didn't mind. I was living in their home after all. It felt like the respectful thing to do. But then came the laundry, then the vacuuming, then reminders written on little yellow sticky notes. Towels and guest bath need folding. Windows streaked, please wipe. They never said it outright, but a pattern formed. When I worked quietly in the dining room, Evelyn would float past and murmur things like, "You're still on that computer," or "Must be nice to work in sweatpants and call it a job." Once, as she passed behind me, she laughed and said, "I remember when women had real careers." I tried to let it slide. Emil told me not to take it personally. "They're just old school," he'd say, kissing my forehead before heading out to his concierge shifts. "They don't mean anything by it." But it did mean something. Every sideways glance chipped away at the confidence I had built. I kept telling myself that if I contributed, it would ease the tension. So I quietly started helping out financially. I paid the internet bill one month when it nearly lapsed, covered the landscaping crew's fee when Bernard forgot. It was easy enough I'd just transfer the money and delete the email notification. No one noticed, and that almost made it worse. I told myself I was smoothing the rough edges, making myself easier to love. Maybe if I kept the house clean, if the roses outside bloomed, they'd start to see me not as a guest, but a daughter. The work piled up both in the house and on my business. I was booking multi-continent honeymoons and six-figure corporate retreats while also cleaning the grout Evelyn said was slipping from pristine. Most nights I stayed up late toggling between spreadsheets and to-do lists. I'd sit at my desk, the only light on in the house, sipping tea I bought, but no one thanked me for. One night, Evelyn mentioned over dinner that she and Emil were planning a summer getaway. Just the two of us, she said, smiling at him. A chance to reconnect in Italy. The lasagna was steaming, the silver polished, the wine poured. It should have felt like a celebration. Evelyn wore her usual pearl earrings, the kind that made her look even more composed when she said cruel things. She passed me the bread basket like nothing was coming. "We've decided," she said, dabbing the corner of her mouth with a linen napkin, "on a little getaway. Emil and I. Just the two of us. Italy this summer. It's long overdue. She said we like I wasn't sitting 3 feet away." I blinked. That sounds beautiful. "When are we going?" Her smile didn't break, but her eyes sharpened. "Oh, sweetheart, this is a mother-son trip. Just us, some family bonding. You understand?" I stared at Emil waiting. He looked down at his plate, cut into his food. "That's surprising," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I thought maybe we were starting something together." Evelyn sipped her wine. "Italy's fast-paced, sophisticated. It's the kind of place that rewards polish and pedigree." Her tone was sweet enough to rot fruit. I laughed, but it caught in my throat. "Are you saying I don't belong on that trip?" She tilted her head. Well, it might be overwhelming for someone without formal travel experience. Or a degree. I turned to Emil again. You're okay with this? He sighed. Let's not make this a thing, Soraya. She meant well. You know how Mom is. I pushed my chair back. No. I know how you both are. No one stopped me. Not when I walked into the kitchen. Not when I stood at the sink, palms pressed against the granite. I didn't cry. Not yet. But something inside me buckled like the foundation of a house, shifting an inch at a time. Unseen, but undeniable. Later that night, Emil knocked on the door quiet. You're being sensitive, he said. It's just a vacation. He called it just a vacation. I nodded, not trusting my voice. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, realizing I wasn't part of the family. I was just convenient. A warm body to clean the floors, pay the bills, and smile politely while they planned a life I was never meant to join. I didn't sleep. I watched the sky shift from ink to ash, my heart stuck somewhere between disbelief and decision. By morning, I wasn't angry. I was clear. I found them in the kitchen. Evelyn slicing fruit into perfect triangles, Emil scrolling through his phone like the night before, hadn't cracked something wide open. I want to talk, I said, standing in the doorway. Evelyn didn't look up. If it's about Italy, we've moved on. It's not about the trip, I said, steady. It's about how you treat me. Like I'm a guest in my own life. She paused, then turned slowly. You're being dramatic. No, I said. I've worked. I've contributed. I've tried. And none of it has ever been enough for you. Her smile thinned. You don't pay rent. You don't cook for the family. You work from home if you even call that work. Honestly, Soraya, you're a drain. A drain. A leech. I turned to Emil, hoping. You know that's not true. He rubbed the back of his neck, eyes darting anywhere but mine. Maybe you just need space. Time to cool off. I swallowed the lump in my throat. So that's it. He didn't answer. I walked upstairs and packed slowly, just my laptop charger, a pair of jeans, my passport. I left everything else, including the cardigan Evelyn had given me for Christmas that still had the tag on it. At the door, Evelyn stood with her arms crossed. Good luck scraping by. I didn't flinch. I didn't look back. The moment I stepped outside, something in my chest loosened. Not freedom exactly, but the first breath of it. I slid into the driver's seat, gripped the wheel, and didn't cry. I was done crying in houses I didn't belong to. And as I pulled out of their driveway, my phone buzzed with a new booking. A client in need of a 2-week itinerary through Greece. High end. Last minute. Just like that, I remembered who I was. The girl Janine raised. The woman who built something from nothing. The one who never needed their permission to belong. By the time the call came, I was watching waves curl into shore outside my window in Maui. My platform had crossed the 7-figure mark. I had a small team now, 2 assistants, a brand manager, and a developer in Lisbon. Most days, I worked barefoot from the Lanai, sending couples to Greece, CEOs to Peru, and newlyweds to dream islands they hadn't even known existed. The ringtone was unfamiliar, but the area code wasn't. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. I picked up curiosity beating out caution. Hello, Soraya, Evelyn's voice ragged. Thank God! She choked on the words. We're behind on everything. Power, water. The gardener quit. Credit cards are maxed. Emil's job can't cover it. I thought Bernard was... She trailed off. I let the silence hang a moment. I stopped paying when I left. She froze. What do you mean? I stood and walked to the edge of the balcony. I mean, for the last 2 years I was covering everything. Quietly. Utilities, groceries, landscaping, the Lexus maintenance plan, the $400,000 in debt on your Amex mine now until I stopped. But you never said anything. No, I said. I thought maybe if I just gave enough you'd finally see me as part of the family. There was a long pause. Then Emil's voice came on the line, lower, desperate. You have to help us, Soraya, please. I didn't raise my voice. I did. You just didn't know it. He exhaled sharply. You're serious. I'm in Maui, Emil. In my own home. Fully paid off. and this call. On your dime, it's international. I hung up, not in anger, not in vengeance, but because sometimes the only way to reclaim your power is to let them hear what it sounds like without your silence. We met in a lawyer's office in West Hollywood, neutral ground beige chairs, too much air conditioning. Emile looked smaller than I remembered, paler, like the weight of everything had finally settled into his face. He didn't say much, just signed where he was told. I had already signed mine. When it was done, he sat back and stared at the folder in front of him. "I thought you'd always be there," he said quietly, not meeting my eyes. I nodded. I was. Until I realized I was never seen. He looked up then, and for a second I could see the man I once loved. The one who made me laugh during airport delays and whispered in Spanish at sunset just to impress me. But that version of him had only existed in spaces where I wasn't being erased. I didn't know he said, voice breaking, just a little. "The money, the house, I didn't expect you to." That was the problem. I stood. "I don't hate you, Emile, but I can't carry people who keep cutting off my wings." He reached for something, maybe a word, maybe my hand, but I stepped back. "I wish you peace," I said, and I meant it. Not because he deserved it, but because I did. Outside, the sun was bright and indifferent. I slipped on my sunglasses, exhaled, and walked toward the curb where my driver waited. I didn't look back. There was no part of me left in that chapter. Janine stepped into the villa like she didn't want to disturb it, like she wasn't sure if she belonged in something so quiet, so clean, so far from everything we'd ever known. Her suitcase had one good wheel and a frayed ribbon tied to the handle. I carried it inside anyway. She walked through the front room, fingers grazing the white walls, the curved banister, the linen curtains dancing in the breeze. Her eyes watered before she said a word. "You made this," she whispered. I nodded, throat tight. "For us." We stood there, both of us suspended between everything we'd survived and everything still waiting. I thought of all the nights she went without dinner so I could eat the way she stayed up to read library books by flashlight when the power was out. How she never asked for anything but always gave more than she had. Now she was here. Her bedroom overlooked the sea. Her robe hung in the closet. Her name was on the lease. She walked out to the balcony, pressed both hands to the railing, and took a long, slow breath. I didn't know it could be like this. I wrapped my arms around her from behind. Me neither, but now we do. Inside, the kettle whistled softly. I poured us tea and set out 2 slices of the banana bread she liked. She laughed, real and full. That night, we ate barefoot at the kitchen island, the windows open and not a single apology between us. Leora found me through a mutual client, a honeymoon couple I'd sent to Bali, who happened to attend one of her destination weddings in Oahu. She reached out with a voice note, Soraya Talbot. "Is that really you? Tell me you still eat tacos like it's a food group." We met at a beach cafe halfway between our offices. She looked exactly the same, just more radiant, like someone who stopped asking for permission to shine. We hugged too long and then didn't stop talking for hours. She told me about the firm she built from scratch, about flying her parents out to see the ocean for the first time. I told her about Janine, about the house, about everything that shattered and what rose after. "We really did it," she said, raising her glass. "From borrowed textbooks to beachfront contracts." I laughed. "From gas station nachos to 5-figure packages." We toasted to every teacher who underestimated us, every invitation we never got, every room we weren't supposed to walk into. Then we ordered dessert because neither of us believed in only taking what we needed anymore. Later that week, she asked if I'd consider partnering on a new package for women traveling solo. I said yes before she even finished the sentence. The waves outside my balcony crash with the kind of rhythm that feels like truth. I sit with my tea inbox open, new bookings rolling in like tides. A letter catches my eye, handwritten, tucked in with a client thank you gift. "You helped me take my first trip," it says. Not just on a map out of shame. I run my fingers over the words, heart full in a way money can't measure. I place the letter next to a photo on my desk, Janine in her garden hat. Leora mid-laugh, my team huddled on a Zoom screen smiling. None of them share my blood. Every one of them helped save my life. I don't think about the house I left behind. I don't need to. They tried to make me small, but I took their table and built a shoreline.